What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be talking about FEY, and more specifically, how to play a FEY or a FEY themed character for, you know it, you love it, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. First off, I want to actually talk about a couple things here because there are two different kinds of Fey creature types that you can play for D&D when we are specifically talking about races for right now. Because there are actual creature types, right, which include for our playable races humanoid, Fey, ooze, construct, goblinoid, and monstrosity as of now. And then there are also different types within those categories. But the ones we're going to be talking about today are just Fey and humanoid because there are humanoids that can come from the Feywild that still aren't Fey, which it's a kind of interesting dynamic. But yeah, so we'll get into those two groups in a bit. I do just want to say though, thank you guys so much for 100 subscribers already. I really appreciate it. That's super cool. Very awesome. So thank you for all your support, and let's keep growing the channel. Let's keep doing fun shizaroonies, and let's get into what we're gonna talk about today. First up, we're gonna be talking about the 5 playable Fey races that have Fey as their creature type, and they are not considered humanoids, but they are Fey instead. So, funny enough, first off, we have a race we actually talked about quite in depth in last week's monk build, which you can see right there. The centaur. So, yes, the centaurs are Fey, not humanoid, which does make sense. They are lacking like a good like half to be pretty humanoidy. Um, so yeah, we're not going to talk about them too in depth. For this, I just kind of want to go over the options that you would have to play more of a Fey based character. So I just kind of want to bring things up, show them to you. If you're using Tasha's, ability scores don't matter that much, but some tables don't use Tasha's. So yeah, centaurs do give you some cool abilities though. Um, you get a walking speed of 40 feet, which is amazing. You get charge, you get equine build, which is a good thing and a bad thing. You get your hooves and you get natural affinity. So overall, I think it's pretty cool. They're pretty cool. We talked about them a lot already, so let's move on. The next race here, one that may or may not surprise you, depending about how much you know about D&D, is the changeling. So if we look here, changelings are actually not humanoid. They are a fae, which is I think it's pretty cool. So we're going to use the updated changeling here from Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse, as I just think giving you guys updated information is easier regardless of whether I think the old one or the new one is better. Maybe I'll make a video in the future on that. If you guys would like to know my thoughts on that, let me know in the comments below. So we've got a bunch of cool things here, but basically changelings, their main ability is that they can morph into anyone that they like, except they can't do like extra limbs and stuff, so it'd be hard for them to be like a centaur or like a winged tiefling. But like they can do like, if they got the same amount of limbs, then they can like pretty much look like you, with excluding some like height details. Like they can't like turn into a giant, like out of nowhere. But they're overall a really cool race. They're really good for spies, infiltration, all that kind of stuff. Um, and they do have a great tie-in with the Fae. Very easy to make them, come from that planner portal. Planner. You know what I mean. Anyway, we're gonna move on now. So the next race we actually have lined up is one of my personal favorite races because as a kid, uh, and from on my home planet, of course, we fairies are great. I loved fairies growing up. Um, so I have a lot of nostalgia, and then when this became a playable race in D&D, I was like, that's so cool. I have yet to play a fairy. That's just because I mostly DM, but I would love to play a fairy. And speaking of, the character build that we're gonna do later in this video is actually going to be a fairy. So the best thing about fairies, well, first of all, you get a little fey characteristics here, which is very cool. It gives you some ideas for maybe how to make your fairy different, more fey-like, which is very fun. I love when they do these kinds of little detailed things. I really think they can help a lot of people who may struggle with the more creative aspect of D&D get some awesome ideas. So the cool thing is, for these, you can just choose wherever you want your 2 and your 1 to go, or your 1 1 1 1. You know what I mean? Um, since they were recently updated. But for our abilities, our main thing, now we're back onto the main thing. The main thing is going to be our fly speed. We do get a flying speed equal to our walking speed, which is great. So that means saying if we're playing like a race, maybe like a monk or a barbarian, or we take the mobile feat, anything that increases our walking speed is also going to increase our flying speed, which is phenomenal. Of course, we can't wear medium or heavy armor, but that's okay. That's okay. We can still go all over the place. So it's pretty cool. We also get a little bit of magic with really great spells, which is awesome. So we get Druidcraft, and we get Fairy Fire and Enlarge Reduce, which are both amazing spells. And we can cast them once without a spell slot, so that's phenomenal. And we can choose which ability we would like to cast them with too. So overall, fairies are a phenomenal race, especially if you are doing Fey things. So for our next race, it's technically not a race, it is a lineage. However, if you take this lineage, even if you're a humanoid before, your creature type changes to Fey. Or if you're starting with a Hexblood, then your creature type is Fey. So Hexbloods are one of my personal favorite races. I adore them. They're basically hag babies, or offspring of hags, or they were cursed by a hag, or basically they're like hag. It's like a big ball of gibbly goggly hagginess. So they also have the origins, which is great. Gives you some ideas of where you came from and how you became a hexblood. And if we scroll all the way down here, you can see that we are a Fae. We only have a base 30 walking speed, nothing special here, no fly speed, none of that shenanigans. We do get the ancestral legacy trait though, because we are a lineage. Dark vision, which is amazing, and eerie token, which is a super cool ability, especially again, works for Fae. If you're playing like an infiltrator or a spy, or maybe like a diviner or something like that. So as a bonus action, you can harmlessly remove a lock of your hair, one of your nails, or one of your teeth, especially if you're playing a creepy character. Hexbloods are amazing for creepy characters. This token is imbued with magic until you finish a long rest. While the token is imbued in this way, you can take one of these actions. You can send a telepathic message, or basically see from wherever the token is, which is cool, within 10 miles, of course. But yeah, it's awesome. And you also, on top of that, get magic. So you get Disguise Self, which is great, and Hex, which is super great too. So, and you can choose what ability you cast them from. Great spells. Overall, great lineage, super powerful. Yeah. So, we're going to move on to our next one, which is, you guys probably saw this coming. This is the last of the actual creature types that are Fey, at least for the official D&D 5e. So we have Centaur here, and centaurs are very cool. They used to be very overpowered because they had magic resistance, and while they still have magic resistance, because of the wording of that ability previously, it was very unclear because it was just like magical effects, and it was like, well, what is that? That could be like almost everything, but they changed that. They're still very good though, so don't you know, don't shy away from playing playing a little goaty woaty boy. I should be stopped. Um, so we got our Fae, and you do have a quicker walking speed for 35 feet, which is very pog. And you get a little ram attack here. You get magic resistance, which now gives you advantage on saving throws against spells, which is still very good. And we get our mithril leap, so whenever we take a long jump or a high jump, we can roll a d8 and add the number rolled to the number of feet we cover, which is nice. And then we get Reveler, so we have proficiency in performance and persuasion skills, which are both very good skills to have. Satyrs are usually great with charisma-based builds, so yeah, funny enough, 3 out of the 5 Fey races have enhanced movement in some way. Fairies have fly, centaurs have 40 feet of movement, and satyr have 35 feet of movement, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, next we're going to move on, and we are going to talk about creatures that are still in the humanoid category. However, they may be considered Fey or linked with the Fae in some way. So let's jump into it. Of course it is the snooty bastards themselves, ain't it? We got our elves. We got the elf here. So elves are not Fae, even though they may or may not come from the Feywild. But they do have Fey traits, especially they literally have Fey ancestry, and they literally have Fey ancestry. So there's a bunch of different elf subraces, and most of the things you get by being an elf you'll get from your subrace. But we do have things, our timeless perspective. Elves live a long time, as do most beings from the Feywild, because time in the Feywild is a hot mess of beans and potatoes. It's like, what? So we got our traits here and maybe some relationships. You don't actually have to follow these things. It's whatever you want to do, to be honest. They wrote so much about details, but basically, just by being a basic booty general elf, our dex increases by 2. We blah 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 blah. Our size, 30-foot walking speed. We do have dark vision. We get keen senses, and perception is great because it's the most used skill in the game, so having proficiency with it is awesome. We get, here it is, the Fey ancestry. And we get trance, so we only have to, sleep for 4 hours, which isn't even, really sleeping, which is really good for things like wizards who need to be up doing their spells all night, or, artificers if you're doing crafts, that kind of stuff. So, we also get languages here, but some of this stuff is also a little bit outdated and can be changed now with, Tasha's and Mordenkainen's, so you'll be able to customize it a little bit more if you would like, as long as you talk to your DM. Always talk to your DM. But we are also going to be talking about, we're not going to be talking about the marked elves, and we're also not really going to be talking about drow, because for the most part, drow don't have a huge focus from the Fae. They tend to yield more from the Underdark. While it does depend on the setting that you're in, they're not huge like Fae elves comparatively. But and we're also not going to be talking about some of these elves, the snootiest of the snoots. I can say this because I am an elf, so it's fine. It's fine. I'm an elf, so yeah. Even though I'm an astral elf, I'm not really a Fey elf, but it's okay. I can still talk shit. Fucking bitches. Anyway, your intelligence increases by 1. You get some weapon proficiencies, which could be nice, especially if you're playing something like a Blade Singer. You get an extra cantrip and an extra language. And we're also, like I said, not going to be talking about marked elves. But we are going to be talking about the Pallet Elf really quickly. This is an elf that came out in the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. So you get your wisdom increased by 1, which is great. And you have advantage on intelligence and wisdom checks Well, intelligence, you have advantage on investigation and insight checks, which is honestly great. Those are two really good skills. Depending on your campaign, they may not be used that much, or they could be used a lot, which is amazing. And you also get Blessing of the Weaver, which means you know the light cantrip, and you get sleep, and you also get invisibility, which are great spells. So overall, Pallet Elves very cool. Um, they do. It doesn't really talk about if they're like Fey or not, but I would still consider them pretty Fey. It says literally Blessing of the Moonweaver. That's what they think. So I don't know. I think it's pretty Fey enough. Um, we also have here. We're also going to be talking about, for our purposes, the Wood Elf. So another elf that increases our Wizzy by 1, our Wisdom. We get more elf weapon training. We also get Fleet of Foot, so we get an increased movement speed, which is nice. And then we get Mask of the Wild, which is you can attempt to hide even when you're lightly obscured in like foliage, heavy rain, falling snow, mist, and other things. It's like good for rangers, but I don't know, it's fine. And remember, so all of these races that we're talking about now, they may yield from the Fae, they may live in the Fae, they may have long lifespans, things like that, but they are not considered, they don't have the Fae creature type. So I know it's weird, but there is a big distinction because a lot of spells that maybe like Charm Person, it says like it has to be a humanoid. Like the Fae races, those weren't humanoids. These are humanoids. I hope that makes sense. So next up, we got everybody's favorite. Come on, we got the rebel, the cutie patootie, the sexy savant. I don't know. Everyone loves half elves because they're like, they're like human, but also not human. So it's like, ooh, look at me. I'm like me, but not me. I don't know. I feel like everyone, like almost everyone's first character is a half elf. I don't know. I could mine actually. My first character I ever made was actually a fire genasi bard. Anyway, moving on. Um, so for our half elf traits, basically half elves are one of the only two races that let you increase your score, your ability score by 4 right off the bat. So that's why they're one of the best races in D&D. So your charisma increases by 2, and then 2 other ability scores of your choice increase by 1, which is phenomenal. And with Tasha's, you can even change where the 2 goes now. So age, you get a lifespan 180 years. We haven't really talked about this. Whatever. Speed, 30 feet. You get dark vision, which is phenomenal. You also have Fey ancestry, so you are very Fey. You're a Fey bitch. You get your skill versatility, and you get languages. So as for our types of half elves, there are a lot. Um, so we have our drow half elf, which we're not really going to talk about, but we do also have our high half elf. But basically, when you take a high, or sorry, I should say, a subclass, not a sub. When you take a sub race for elf, half elf, it doesn't give you that much, except you can maybe switch something in. So you can usually forgo skill versatility and choose one other boon that the initial race of the elf ancestor gives you. So for our high half elf, you can choose the weapon training or cantrip instead of skill versatility. Sorry. No, that is for high half elf. I know what I'm doing. And then for wood half elf, you can forego skill versatility and instead choose the weapon training, fleet of foot, or mask of the wild features. So, yeah. You do also have the aquatic half elf, which you can do the same thing. You can forgo skill versatility and instead choose a swimming speed of 30 feet, which I don't know. It depends on the campaign if you want to do that one or not. Anyway, next up, we have basically what are the humans of the Feywild, and why Eladrin are not considered Fey are far beyond me. Like that doesn't make anyway, whatever. So Eladrin are the bipolar moody bitches of playable characters by far. Not actually, it just depends how you play them, but that is kind of the running joke in the D&D community. So because they're moody, because they can change their appearance based on a season, but that season's appearance also changes their emotions. So we have autumn, we have winter, we have spring, and we have summer. But the cool thing is, depending on what your season is, that can also give you different boons. So we are it's basically, since these guys were updated in Morden Canaans, it's just that you can choose wherever they go, and you don't need to even use Tasha's for it. So languages, it's common in another language. So creature type, we get the humanoid creature type. Humanoid. It should be Fae. Eladrin should be Fae. Hot take. I think elves are cool being humanoids. I think that works, but like Eladrin should be Fae. 1000%. Anyway. So we've got our following traits here. Our walking speed, 30 feet. We do get dark vision. We have our Fae ancestry. And we have Fae step. And Fae step is cool because this is the ability that changes based on the season that we're in. And it's basically, as a bonus action, we can teleport up to 30 feet in an unoccupied space. And we can do it a number of times equal to our proficiency bonus. And when we get to 3rd level, then we get an additional effect based on our season. So for autumn, basically, for a Fae step, up to 2 creatures of your choice that you can see within 10 feet of you must succeed a wisdom save or be charmed by you for 1 minute until you or your companions deal any damage to that creature. And for winter, when you use your Fae step, 1 creature of your choice that you can see within 5 feet must teleport before you. Teleport must succeed a wisdom save or be frightened of you until your next turn. And then for spring, when you use your Fae step, you can touch 1 willing creature, and it basically that creature teleports instead of you. And then summer, immediately after you use Fae step, each creature you can see within 5 feet of you takes fire damage equal to half your proficiency bonus. So each of those can be like good depending on, where you're at. They're all situational. Some of them though you might want to keep depending on like your build. Like summer, if you're trying to do more damage, then you might just want to stay in summer. You might not want to change. Like you could just be like, oh, I'm stuck in summer. I'm just a summer Eladrin. Like you don't have to change. You know what I mean? We also get our keen senses, so we also get proficiency in perception. Plus we get trance. Eladrin are cracked. They get a lot of stuff. They're really good. So next up for our Fae races, I don't know why it's all the way down here. Hello? There we go. But we actually have we basically have the short dudes, the short little guys of the Fae. Wild. That aren't Fae. Okay. So we have our gnomes. They are very Fae. They're basically like, I don't know, Fae halflings, Fae dwarves. They're like the equivalent of those guys, of those dudes, of the short bitches. Short bitches. So for what we get our traits, our intelligence increases by 2, which isn't the best unless you're playing a wizard or an artificer, but thankfully with Tasha's we can change this now. So they don't live quite as long as elves, but that's fine. And our walking speed is only 25 feet, unfortunately. So we do have dark vision. Accustomed to life underground, you have superior dark vision. Great, cool. We've got gnome cunning, which is nice. It gives us advantage on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws against magic, which is cool. That's a very nice thing. We get languages, and yeah, we're not going to be, as much as I love deep gnomes, we're not going to be talking about them here because they are more Underdark, not Fae. So, unless we're talking about the Fae Underdark, but oh my god, that in and of itself is really just a whole nother nightmare. That should be like a whole other video. We're not gonna get into that. But first we are going to talk about our forest gnome. So our other stat buff is to our dex. We get the minor illusion cantrip, which is a great cantrip. Unfortunately, our intelligence is our spellcasting modifier for it, but it doesn't matter too much since it's not like an attack roll or a saving throw cantrip. It's just a little like doodle-loo, We also get Speak with Small Beasts, which is a nice little feature. And then for a rock gnome, our con increases by 1. And then we also get Artificer's Lore. So whenever we make a history check related to magic items, alchemical objects, or technical devices, we can add twice our proficiency bonus instead of any proficiency bonus you normally apply, which is very cool. And then we also get Tinker, which is why so many people love like our Artificer rock gnomes, You have proficiency with artisan's tools. Using those tools, you can spend 1 hour and 10 GP worth of materials to construct a tiny clockwork device. The device ceases to function after 24 hours unless you spend 1 hour repairing it to keep the device functioning. So yeah, it's basically just like a little tinker toy you can make, which is awesome. So, we have 2 more races to talk about. You may or may not know what they are, but we're gonna talk about them. They exist. They are races that do exist in D&D 5e. So, I'm sorry, we have 3 more races to talk about. I knew that. It's 3. Anyway, the next 2 are the more interesting ones. First off, we've got our Harengon. We've got the Bunny Man. We've got the Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny. So they're humanoids, but they're also Fey. They usually are very Fey-like most of the time. They don't have to be, but like they usually come from the Fey. So here we are. It literally says Herringons originated in the Feywild, where they spoke Sylvan and embodied the spirit of freedom and travel. Wow. So for our ability score, it's just the 2 and 1, and then the 1, 1, 1, like wherever you want it to go. Languages, common and another language. And our creature type is humanoid. So our speed is 30 feet. But this is cool. Hair trigger is actually a very cool thing. We can add our proficiency bonus to our initiative rolls. That's an awesome feature. It gets better as we, continue on in our career. And so I feel as though personally Herringons make great like rogues or like dexterity based fighters, things like that. We also get leporine senses, which I don't know why it's just not called keen senses or whatever, but we also get proficiency in perception. And then we get lucky footwork, so when you fail a dex, you can use your reaction, roll a d4, add it to the save, potentially turning the failure into success, which is amazing. We also get rabbit hop, so as a bonus, you can jump a number of feet equal to 5 times your proficiency bonus without provoking opportunity attacks, and you can use this only if your speed is greater than 0. You can use it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended use when you finish a long rest. Why they didn't just give the Harengon like 35 feet of movement or 40 feet of movement? I don't know. I mean, it's cool, but like I feel like there's just a lot of extra movement. Anyway, the next race here we have is the Hobgoblin, and you're like, wait, the Hobgoblin? Why the hell is the Hobgoblin here? Well, because in Monsters of the Multiverse, they actually decided to change the Hobgoblin lore. Unfortunately, I feel as though the Hobgoblin is now lame, even though its abilities are way better. Overall, the lore is way more lame. So I would go with the old lore personally and use the new abilities, but you do you. We're just gonna go based off the new books because that's freaking easier. So yeah. Hobgoblins trace their origins to ancient courts of the Feywild. Like, why? Like, dude, what? Anyway, so for our traits, we are a humanoid, but we are also considered a goblinoid for any prerequisite or effect that requires us to be a goblinoid. So we're a bit of both. We're a bit of both. Our walking speed is 30 feet, and we do have dark vision, which is amazing. We have Fey ancestry, which is great. And then we have Fey gift, which is a super awesome ability. You can use this trait to take the help action as a bonus action, and you can do so a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you get all of these when you finish a long rest. And starting at 3rd level, you can choose one of the options below when you take the help action with this trait. So hospitality grants you and the creature you help each gain a number of temp hit points equal to 1d6 plus proficiency bonus. Nice little bony wony. And passage, you and the creature you help each increase your walking speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn, which that's also nice. And spite, until the end of your next turn, the first time the creature you help hits a target with an attack roll, the target has disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes within a minute. Whew, doozy. But on top of all of that, right? You also get Fortune from the Many. If you miss with an attack roll or fail an ability check or saving throw, you can draw on your bonds of reciprocity to gain a bonus to the roll equal to the number of allies you can see within 30 feet of you, maximum of +3. You can add this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you can regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. That's wacky. This is a great race. More people should play this. Except for the lore is dookie now. They used to be like chieftains of like goblins and like hard and rough, but now they're like doodly doo. But I don't know, just do whatever you want. Talk to your DM, maybe flavor them totally differently. Maybe they were like Oogie Boogie Men, you know what I mean? Just talk your DM. But for our purposes, they're Fae. We're talking about Fae, alright? Fae bitches. And the last one we have here, oh no, oh god, why? It's another elf. Oh no, oh no, 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 please, not another one. I can't take any more. These bitches are so annoying. Man. Anyway, we've got the Sea Elf here. We're talking about the Sea Elf because they were updated in Mordenkainen's Guide to Monsters of the Multiverse again, like a lot of the other races you actually saw here today. So, ability scores are the wherever you want them to go, you know, all that stuff. Creature type, we are a humanoid, but we're also an elf for any prerequisite. That requires us to be an elf. Our walking speed is 30 feet, but we do have a swimming speed equal to our walking speed, which is nice, which means we can increase our swimming speed if our walking speed increases. So this is nice. You can breathe air and water, and we have resistance to cold damage. That is a epic gamer moment. We get dark vision. We get also Fey ancestry, which is nice. We get friend of the sea, so aquatic animals have an extraordinary affinity with your people. You can communicate simple ideas to any beast that has a swimming speed. It can understand your words, though you have no special ability to understand it in return, which is really dumb. Like, I feel like you should be able to understand it back, but whatever, dude. You also get keen senses, and we get trance. So overall, a little better. I feel like, I don't know, sea elves could still, they're missing a little something. Like, there are so many other underwater races. Like, there's water genasi, there's also the Triton. There might be another one too. So I feel like they should have something else to maybe set them apart from the other water races. They feel very similar. But yeah, that's it for the races. So next up, we're actually going to be talking about Fae themed subclasses, or subclasses that I thought may work or have a very strong leaning feel for the kind of things that Fae tend to stand for. And it's a pretty long list. This is going to be a hefty ass frickin' video, so let's get into it. These subclasses now. Hold on tight. So the first subclass we have here is Barbarian for Path of the Wild Magic. Obviously, you know why it's here. It's wild magic. It's all about not knowing what's going on, all that kind of stuff, and weird magicy wagicy, which is very Fae. So yeah, if you want to play a cool melee based Fae thing character, Path of the Wild Magic might be for you. I have seen someone play this. I was at a table with someone who played this, and they had a lot of fun with this build. So it seems very cool, very very fun. Next up for the Bard, we actually have a bunch of subclasses. So our first subclass we're going to talk about is the College of Eloquence, which I think is very Fae-like. It has to do a lot with, you know, talking, your words. You're very good with your words and talking clearly, as I am not. So, and for the Bard, I actually have 4. 2 of them I think would be great fits for the Seelie Courts, and 2 of them would be great fits for the Unseelie Courts, because Bards and Fae go together like, I don't know, French fries and milkshakes, pineapple and pizza. You just can't have one without the other. Trigger warning, I guess? I don't know. I can eat pizza without pineapple, but I do like pineapple pizza. Anyway. The next one for the Seelie Court, I guess, Fae, we should have the College of Glamour here. I think that works well since the Fae tend to hold like beauty and a high moral standard, since their morals are very different than ours are here in the material plane. And then for the Unseelie Courts, I have the College of Spirits here, and also the College of Whispers. Unfortunately, College of Whispers, I don't know, some of these subclasses aren't the best mechanically, but I think they do have a lot of good things thematically speaking, so that's why I'm bringing them up here. Because right now we're just focusing on theme. When we get into our character build, we'll worry a little bit more on how things play. But these are all just Fae themed things for now, maybe just to give you inspiration if you want to build a Fae bitch. So for Cleric, I have 2 subclasses that I think would work really well. The Trickery domain, which I think that one is a little bit more obvious as to why it would work. Now the other one, y'all might be like, Ash, why? I actually have the Order domain here. Listen. Listen. I think it's great because Imagine if you're following the order of like your Fey court. So actually your order is chaos itself, but like that's order for you. Like I think that could be super cool. Or like your order is like, I don't know, it's like completely upside down from what it would be like on the material plane. Like I think there are really cool ways to warp this subclass to make it very Fey like, and like their spells, I looked at their spell list and I was like, yeah, I don't know, this just fits. Like command, heroism, hold person, zone of truth, slow, which is an amazing spell, compulsion, locate creature, like dominate person. I don't know. I just felt like these spells very much fit, and like it's a great subclass. It's super powerful. I don't know. You could do a lot of cool things with this and the Fae, but it's all about subverting the expectations with this one. So next up, we have our Druid. So we have Circle of Dreams is the first one. I wish this was a better subclass, but thematically, it's amazing. It's already intrinsically Fey-tied, which is great. Like, you literally have Bomb of the Summer Court as your first ability. So it's very cool. It's very dream themed, very dream based. Obviously, it's called Circle of Dreams. I'm smart. Um, so yeah. And then the next one, which you may have seen coming, is gonna be the Circle of the Moon Druid, because there's a lot of moon stuff going off in the Feywild, or in Fey creatures. They dig the moon. Not always, but in a lot of settings they do. So I think Circle of the Moon fits pretty good. And next we have our fighter, which you may or may not have guessed this. It is going to be our Arcane Archer. I was thinking actually about going Purple Dragon Knight, but then I'm like, dude, it just sucks so bad. But Arcane Archer fits. It makes a lot of sense. It's very traditional when you think of like your elf with the bow. And you even get like one of your little boons. Like you can even learn Druidcraft, or it works very well. It works very well. You can theme it very naturey or very like Science Arcana-y. So both versions work very well. And it works. It's great. So for the monk, unfortunately, we have a stinky subclass, but it does fit. We have Way of the Four Elements, and I was thinking about, I didn't build this, but what if we put an Eladrin, like, elf and a Way of the Four Elements monk together and just had the moodiest, like, bipolar person on the planet? Like, talk about, I don't know, like maybe just moody avatar. Like, I think that would be hysterical, right? So, like, maybe if, like, one of the elements, like, corresponds to one of the seasons, or maybe you just turn them all eight things have all different emotions. Like that could be fun. That could be really fun. um yeah, I don't know, there weren't too many monk things that I was like, yes, this is very Fey. So yeah. Also, I didn't put artificer on this list because I was like, there are no artificer subclasses that feel very Fey. Most of these are very mechanical and like sciencey, and I was like, I can't really get any of these to feel like Fey. I mean, I think you could, but just if you're reading just the base text without flavoring anything, then I was like, this doesn't really work. So with flavor, you definitely could, but if you're just doing it like strict, like textbook, like, that's gonna be a lot harder. So I didn't really put an artificer subclass on here, if that's why you're wondering why they're not on here. So for our paladin, of course, you probably guessed this. We have Oath of the Ancients. This is the one of the best paladin subclasses in the game. One of the most powerful characters you could probably make in the game is a level 20 Oath of the Ancients paladin. It's just crazy. So yeah, that's our Oath of the Ancients. Very great Fey flavor. It literally says elves right here. um and yeah, for our ranger, we of course have the Fey Wanderer. It is literally the Fey Ranger subclass. It literally is in the name. It's Fey Wanderer. So yeah, this subclass is okay. It's still a ranger. Gloomstalker is still better, but it's really cool, and there's a lot of awesome flavor things that you can do with it. So that's nice. For our rogue, we have Arcane Trickster. I think it just fit the best because you're a very trickstery character. And usually Fey people are very magic-y, so I think it works. You're sneaky, you're magic-y, you're tricky. It's a bing bada boom. It's a win-win. Oh, also, let me go back. I'm sorry. For the ranger, I actually had another one that I forgot to talk about, and then I looked at my sheet and I was like, oh, I didn't talk about it. So we actually have the Horizon Walker here. And I put this one here because while not like strictly Fey, they do deal with extra planar things, and Fey they do come from the Feywild is another plane of existence. So I was like, well, this also fits because you could be like keeping, maybe there's like a Fey incursion and you're trying to keep them at bay, or like what if you were from the Feywild initially and now you like walk both planes, So I thought that also fit very well. So moving on, we actually are going to talk about our sorcery here, and of course we have wild magic. Wild magic could definitely be better, but it's still a very cool subclass and fits the theme very well. We do actually have another subclass here in lunar sorcery. Yeah, 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 yeah. I was debating on putting this one here, but I was like, actually, I think it fits. It's another moon-based subclass, and it is much more powerful. So if you want another Fae-themed sorcerer that's not homebrew, and you don't want to play a wild magic sorcerer, I think lunar sorcery is definitely the right pick for you, because maybe you just don't flavor it as the moon. Like, you could flavor it maybe as seasons if you're playing an Eladrin or something like that, even though there's only 3 of them, but it's fine. Like, it's cool. Lunar sorcery is great. It's moony. It definitely fits the Fae vibes. So yeah. Next for the warlock, of course, you guessed it, you know it. It's the Archfey patron. It's literally the Archfey patron. Like it's Archfey. It's right there in the name, guys. So yeah, it's okay. There are much better, of course, warlock subclasses, but I have played an Archfey Warlock before, and I had a lot of fun. I've also seen someone else play them, and they also had a lot of fun. So I think it can be a very fun subclass. You just have to make sure that, you know, I would say the Archfey is better for people who know Warlocks really well. If you don't know Warlocks really well, I'd probably play something that definitely is maybe like a Hexblade or something that's not quite as like, yeah. Anyway. So next up for the wizard, first we have chronergy magic, and I chose chronergy magic because in the Feywild, time is all wibbly wobbly wimey, so it makes sense that if you're Fey, you may be dealing with someone that has the magic and like magic over time. That actually made a lot of sense to me, so I was like, cool, this is great. I can actually see this working really well. Surprisingly, I thought about it for a while, and I was like, does this work? And I was like, yeah, it works really well. So that's why we have chronergy magic, because Fey is weird, and time is weird there, and everything's weird there, but especially time. And then I also put 2 schools of magic. We have the School of Enchantment Wizard, which makes a lot of sense because they are like, charisma, baby. We got the riz, baby. But not all the time, you know what I mean? But just sometimes. And then for our last wizard school, we actually have a Wizard School of Illusion, because Fae are also like trickstery and like illusions and like wahaha. So I thought that one also worked really well. And that's it for all the subclasses. Hopefully that gave you some ideas if you want to play Fae and you don't know where to start on like what class or what subclass. Those are all the subclasses that I think have a lot of Fae inspiration and great Fae themes in them. That was a lot. But now we are going to move into our character build for this week. Alrighty, guys. And reeling it in, we have our character build for this week. We are going to be talking about a character that I made. But no, this is a Fae-themed character. We are going to be using a race we have talked about, and we are also going to be using mostly subclasses that we discussed in the video already. So we're going to be using the things that we talked about, and this is an example of how to do like a Fae bitch. So I did choose Fairy for my race. I don't think we've used Fairy on the channel before, and I was like, well, that seems like a pretty good idea. And I also thought for this character, being small and having a flying speed would be really great for what we want to do. Plus, we also get some amazing spells. So I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. For our stats, unfortunately, this character is a little bit all over the place. So if you are using point buy or standard array, personally, I would not recommend playing this character. I would recommend playing this character if you are rolling your stats. While you can totally do it, it is doable. It's a little bit mad, and you definitely may feel it overall. But if you roll for your stats and you have like 4 really good stats, then this is a great character to play. But doing manual or point buy might be a little bit harder. So that's why I'd recommend playing this when you're doing a roly statty waddy. But that's totally up to you. You can still do it with point buy or standard array. So continuing on. For our classes. First up, we're actually going to be starting with Fighter. And right off the bat, we are going to be taking 6 levels of fighter. Like, we're going hammy whammy, right into the fightery whitery off the batty waddy. I don't know what's with the rhymes this week. I'm sorry, y'all. So, at first level, we're going to get our fighting style, and this character is definitely going to be an archer, and they're going to be an archer all the way. So, we are actually going to take archery and gain a +2 bonus to our attack rolls, which archery is probably the best fighting style in the game. So, yeah, we're also going to get a bunch of great stuff. Our second win, our action surge, our martial archetype, and for that, we are actually going to choose Arcane Archer, which you saw was showcased earlier in the Fae themed subclass builds. So for our Arcane Archer lore, this doesn't necessarily matter, but here I just took Arcana and Druidcraft because I thought they kind of fit with us being very magic and being a little fairy. Wait, do we already have Druidcraft? I think we do. Uh, hey guys. Hey guys. I want you to know that we're actually going to take Prestidigitation because as a fairy, we already have Druidcraft. I knew that. Yeah. I'm sorry. It was the one little detail I missed. There was a lot of ground to cover in this week's video, okay? So at third level, we're also going to get our arcane shot options, which are great. So for us, unfortunately, we don't really want saving throws because our save for these shot options, it's our proficiency bonus. It's 8 plus proficiency plus intelligence, which isn't great. I'd maybe talk to your DM and be like, hey, if we're a fairy, if we're doing more wisdom-based stuff, can I use like my wisdom modifier instead of my intelligence modifier? They may say yes, they may say no. Personally, if I was a DM, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense, totally. But, you know, I don't know what your DM's like. So we're going to choose ones that don't need a saving throw to be really good. But on this character, we are focused on doing a lot of damage, but we are definitely doing a lot of damage the first turn. We're more of a Nova character, but the nice thing is we can do sustained damage over time, even after our Nova round is over, which is perfecto. So we took Bursting Arrow here, which imbues our arrow with energy from the School of Evocation. So immediately after the arrow hits a creature, the target and all other creatures within 10 feet of it take 2d6 force damage, which is great. And also, an amazing thing about this class, or this subclass specifically, is that you can just do this once every turn, every time you hit a creature, which is phenomenal. So we also took Grasping Arrow here. So when this arrow strikes its target, it conjures a magic conjuration magic creates grasping poisonous brambles, which wrap around the target, creating the creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 poison damage, and while the damage sucks, I thought it was cool because it also reduces the speed of the creature by 10 feet, and it takes 2d6 slashing damage the first time on each of its turn, so it moves 1 foot or more without teleporting. The target or any creature that can reach it can use its action to remove the brambles with a successful athletics check against your Arcana shot save DC. Otherwise, the brambles last for 1 minute or until you use this option again. So, like, overall, I thought it was pretty good. It comes with a lot of extra stuff plus the damage. So I was like, that's great. Amazing. Wonderful. Plus, it slows our opponent, which is nice because we want to be nice and far away and going pew 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 with our little bow and arrow. I guess with our long bow and arrow, whatever. So for our first feat, I think no matter what, unless you are like dying in your ability scores, take Sharpshooter. It's the best feat possible for us. Because attacking at long range, it doesn't impose disadvantage. We ignore half cover and 3/4 cover. And we also can take the -5 for the +10 damage to hit, which is phenomenal for us. This is the best feat we can get. If you are not taking the fairy race, I would recommend taking custom lineage or variant human to just get this before even level 4. It's stupid good when you're an archer. Like you almost have to take it. Otherwise your damage just sucks. So we also get extra attack at 5th level. And the reason we stayed in it for fighter until 6th level is because we get another improvement score since we are a fighter. So personally, I would just bump your dexterity here, or maybe just take a feat that bumps your dexterity because we're sitting at an odd 17 right now, so that'll get it to a 18 if you take a feat that bumps your dexterity. If you take a feat there, my personal recommendation with our fairy race would be squat nimbleness because it gives us a +1 dex. We also get a couple other bonuses, but our move speed also increases by 5 feet, giving us a 35-foot flying speed and a 35-foot walking speed, which is awesome. So after we take our 6 levels in fighter, right after that, we're actually going to take a ranger, and we're going to take 3 levels of ranger. So make sure your wisdom modifier is a 13 at this point, so you can take the ranger levels at least, but we do want it higher. So at first level, we get a bunch of stuff, and I would also talk to your DM if you're using the replacement features or the optional features. I just have all of the optional and replacements checked here because the majority of them are much better, not all of them, but I think it's easier and it makes it look cleaner, especially when we're talking about the characters. So we get our favored foe, proficiencies, additional ranger spells at second level. I mean, we get spellcasting at second level plus, yeah, you know. So actually, funny enough, I did double check this. Most of the time you can't stack fighting styles, but for some reason, if you have the archery fighting style and fighter, and then you take ranger, and then you take the archery fighting style, it stacks. I don't know if this is like rules as written, but at least in D&D Beyond it stacks, and I couldn't find anywhere in like the rules as written where it says that it doesn't stack. So if you guys can find that, please let me know in the comments. But if we take the archery fighting style again, that gives us a +4 to attack at this point. So basically the penalty for doing a +10 damage from sharpshooter is only a -1 because of our +4 from archery. Like at this level, we have like a +11 or something already to hit with like no magic weapon. I think it's between +10 and +12, somewhere around there, which is crazy good. Like, this is great. We also get our spellcasting focus, which is nice. We can maybe use like a druid spellcasting focus if we want. And then at third level, we get our ranger archetype. And I said the majority, not all of the subclasses we're taking. The majority of the subclasses we're taking were from the ones we just described. Here we're going to take Gloomstalker. Maybe now that your character's on the material plane, they've seen the dark side of humanity and they're like, I don't know how I feel about this. Or maybe your character actually is from the Unseelie Courts, from the Feywild, and they've been kind of like more dark all along. So maybe the Gloomstalker just fits perfectly, you know? I think there's tons of ways to flavor it. Make it work how you want. So this is great for us because we get all the boons of Gloomstalker. We also get a Disguise Self, which is a nice bonus spell. We get our Dread Ambusher feature, which is why most people take Gloomstalker. So at the start of each of our turns in combat, we get plus 10-foot walking speed. And if we take the attack action, we can make 1 extra additional weapon attack as part of that action. And if it hits, the target takes an extra 1d8 damage of the weapon's damage type, which is phenomenal. So lots of attacking for us because it's crazy. So for our first round, right, we're a level 9 character at this point. If we are attacking just first round of combat, so we can action surge. So that's 4 attacks right there because we have extra attack. Plus our Dread Ambusher. So that's 5 attacks, which is great. Let me reread this. You can take 1 additional. Okay, yeah, it's just 1 attack. It's not 1. So yeah, so that's 5 attacks at level 9 on the first of each of our turns, which is great. Plus, we get the D8 damage, and then we also get the D8 damage, the 2d6 damage from our arcane shots. Plus, on top of that, we also get all the sharpshooter damage, so we could be sharpshooting every single one of these, which for a flat plus 10 damage if we hit, which is great. Yeah, this build I think actually does quite a bit of damage overall, and especially because it can do most of the time, it's doing that damage sustainably. Oh, also one thing I forgot to mention is as a fairy, we actually don't get dark vision, and Umbral Sight also gives us dark vision, so that's great, which is one of the few ways that you can do it when you're a race that doesn't have dark vision. So yeah, that's super awesome. Okay, for our last 3 levels, we're going to be going rogue here. So our first level of rogue gets us expertise already, which is phenomenal. And we also get our sneak attack, which is going to be letting us do even more damage. And at second level, we get our cunning action, which means we can go faster, we can go new, we can fly faster, and we're also much better at hiding, which is great because that may give us our sneak attack on attacks, all the amazing stuff. And at third level, we're going to get our roguish archetype, and we're going to go arcane trickster here. I just think it fits the best. We're very trickstery, and we get really great things like the invisible mage hand, and we get more spell slots. And this is nice because a lot of our spells aren't going to require. We're going to have mostly low level spell slots, and we're not going to be using spells that require a lot of saving throws and all that kind of stuff. And we can also get super helpful things. So for the spells I picked for the Arcane Trickster Rogue, I actually have in Code Thoughts Green Flame Blade, which might help us if we ever have to fight in close combat. Most of the time we're not going to want to do that, but if we do have to do that, right? Message Find Familiar, which is phenomenal, can give us like help action stuff like that for sneak attack. Shield and Silvery Barbs, which are both great reaction spells and can be life-saving in some situations. So, and they don't need saving throws or anything like that. They just work. And then for our spells, actually for the ranger, I have Cure Wounds because if you need to bring someone up or make them alive, which is great, even if we need to heal ourselves a little bit. And then I also have Ensnaring Strike and Hail of Thorns because these will help us do more damage. So that's why I think our spell casting should be a little bit more wisdom focused rather than intelligence focused. But that's kind of up to you and how you want to do the build. So yeah, and if we do want to talk about the background really quick, I think Phalos just works very well if it's the character, but there are backgrounds that give you, actual really great benefits, but they might not be allowed at your table. So if you're just doing regular backgrounds, Phalos, probably the best one you can get. So now I just also want to quickly mention, if we're going beyond level 20, I would probably go up to level 8 in Fighter because you get another Arcane Shot option at level 7, and then level 8 gives us another feat or ability score improvement, right? And then I'd maybe go up to level 7 in Rogue, so we can get things like Evasion and Uncanny Dodge, and then we also get more spell slots. And one other option I wanted to mention is probably maybe a 2-level dip into Chronergy Wizard, because then we can add our intelligence modifier to our initiative rolls, and we can do more reroll things, and it gives us a little bit more spells and more spell slots for things like using shield and silvery barbs, and also things that are going to augment our damage a little bit more and maybe give us a little bit more versatility, but that's kind of a little crazy thing only if you want to do it. But after you do maybe those things, then just go the rest of the way Fighter. Don't take any more ranger levels after this unless you really want to, but yeah, we're basically just going to be taking more Fighter levels, more Rogue levels, and maybe 2 levels in Chronergy Wizard, because why the heck not? So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. That was this week's build video. I know that was a lot of information to cover. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks so much. Thank you for 100 subscribers. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and maybe hit that like button, but please subscribe. Have an amazing and wonderful day, and I hope it is filled with smiles. Bye!